It's going now.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah. How about now? Can you hear us now?
Are you asking me to respond?
No, well, no, I'm asking the audience if they can hear us now. Yep, they can hear us now. I'm going to just read the bio real quick, if that's okay. When I get to that page. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. We have a real special guest here. We have Monika Schaefer. She was born June 24th in 1959 in Canada. She has an older brother, Alfred Schaefer, born in Germany, January 30th, 1955. They both were raised in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Monika's parents were first-generation German immigrants. Alfred moved to Germany about 30 years ago. Monika currently lives in a small town of about 5,000 people for the past 36 years in Canada. Everybody's like, oh, I see her on Brian Rue. Monika is a violin instructor and a lifetime activist. She was a Green Party member for many, many years and ran in 4 elections, 1 provincial and 3 federal elections. So she is really always have been out there. She's got a huge heart and is active in her community. Monika states that her awakening began about 10 years after 9/11. On June 16, 2016, Monika created the video, "I'm Sorry Mom, I Was Wrong About the Holocaust." Monika and her brother Alfred attended the Sylvia Stolz speech crime trial in Germany January 3rd, 2018, so that was just last year. It was in the courtroom that Monika was arrested for making the "I'm Sorry Mom, I Was Wrong About the Holocaust" video. Alfred was arrested July 6, 2018. July 26th, right?
July
26th. Okay, I'm sorry. All right.
July 6th,
right.
That's right.
They were tried together, and on October 26th, Monika was released on time served, and Alfred was sentenced to 3 years, 2 months, and is still currently serving time. Monika has just finished week 1 of a 2-week speaking tour in Canada, in which she was kind enough to share her story here on The Harsh Reality before she goes back to finishing her tour. So, thank you, Monika, for coming.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
We're all ecstatic.
I hear a little bit of an echo here. Do you hear that, or is it okay?
I don't hear it, but is it okay with you? You know what? Let me make sure that YouTube is muted on my end. It may not be muted, so. Do you have YouTube running on your computer?
Let me just see if there's nothing on, nothing is, so there's no video on or anything.
Okay.
Is that what you mean?
Yes.
There's no other sounds coming from my computer.
Okay, but you're not running the YouTube video that we're on right now?
Oh, I don't think so, no.
Okay.
I'll just make sure, I'll just close everything else out here that would be irrelevant to us so that we just make really double sure. That's great. Now nothing else is open. And I don't hear the echo anymore anyway. Maybe there was a problem.
I muted one of the media bars on my OBS system. Okay.
Great.
Wow,
That's
so what a story.
Oh my goodness, it's been quite the year, 2018. It really was quite the year. And I mean, it was a shock, and it was, when they grabbed me on January 3rd, it was terrible. It was a shock, and I kind of felt like I went into a deep, dark hole. But, I have to say that 10-month experience has now enriched my life. I mean, that sounds really odd to say that, but I learned so much, and I I think they shone a light on the issue. So if that is the case, that my incarceration did something to help others awaken to our plight, then I am happy to have been there. And yeah, so that's kind of in a nutshell how I feel now. And I don't feel like I got sort of pummeled into a corner and that, weakened by it. No. And I think this is a common thing for political prisoners, is that they are strengthened by their experience, and that is what happened to me. Now, I could tell you a little bit about that date, January 3rd, and Sylvia Stolz, because it's very related to what Alfred and I faced at our Inquisition. You see, she was on trial for a speech crime, and the irony of it is this, that the speech that she was on trial for, she was describing the justice system, or the so-called justice system in Germany, and what happens with whether you can produce evidence in a court, whether you can actually clearly defend yourself or defend your client. You see, she was a lawyer, and she was Ernst Sandel's attorney, and was defending him. This would have been, I think, back in 2005, something like that. And she ended up being actually carried out of the courtroom at that time because she was bringing evidence. And the judge had told her to stop. This is against the law. Even though you're in court, you think that in a court that's one place where you could bring evidence, one side, the other side, everybody brings their evidence, and then the judge is supposed to decide, right? But this is illegal in Germany. You're not even allowed to bring evidence. She was doing it. She did not stop when the judge told her to stop. It's not like she was making a ruckus or being violent. No, she was simply speaking, and she continued to do her job. And she explained why she continued to do her job. Then they, again, were warning her, telling her to stop. She did not stop. They actually, like, the police came and they ordered her to stop. That she was going to be leaving, and she said, well, you'll have to carry me out. And that's what happened. They carried her out. And she ended up 3 years, 3 months in jail at that time.
Wow.
So, yes. And so that is how it is in Germany. You cannot actually make a defense for yourself, and the lawyers who, have us as their clients, they are really going on a tight wire. They're dancing a very fine line, and dancing very carefully on this tight wire to not go to jail themselves. But many lawyers in Germany have been charged. They don't all go to jail. Like Sylvia Stolz at that time, it could be that she was the first lawyer to actually go to jail for this law, but many before her had been charged. They pay their fines, and then they might decide, they're not going to do that again. You see? But that is the reality of it in Germany.
Wow. So basically, you're in court, and you're being charged with a crime, and if you talk about that crime, you can get in trouble. Well, you could have added charges.
Exactly. And that's exactly what they do. And Alfred is facing new court dates. Now, he's in jail already. He's got this 3-year, 2-month verdict, and he's facing more court dates for things that he said in court and did in court as well. The first week was quite a week filled with ruckus.
Oh my gosh.
He did some, symbolic acts that are not allowed, putting your hand in a certain way and saying, look how high my dog Pavlov can jump.
I love the spirit of, the defiant spirit. You're not going to silence me. I love that. And, I have to give you and your brother all the credit in the world and how brave you both are, because it's always the first people who get hammered the hardest. You guys sacrifice yourself for the rest of us.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, thank you. But I have to say that since I did that video in 2016, June of 2016, I actually felt so free. And even when I was in jail, I felt free. I would not have wanted to trade places with the jail boss, for instance. I felt like I was 1,000 times freer than her. That might sound odd. Yes, they have the keys. They lock us in. They can scream and yell at us. They can demean us. They can do all those things. But if you have a clear conscience and you know that you have truth on your side, and they are proving it to you daily. Like in the trial, we always felt they were proving to us daily that they were just protecting great big lies by their behavior. And I can tell you a little bit more about that as we go along here. But you see, when you have that clear conscience and you know you have truth on your side, and then once you've spoken this big taboo thing that we're not allowed to speak, but once you've done that, it is the most freeing thing on earth. Like, sure, there might be other consequences, but I don't know. I would not want to go back, shall we say. Like, I would not want to go back to a state of cowering and being afraid of what we can say and not say, and or a state of ignorance where I put my head in the sand and unlearn the things that I've learned. I'd much rather know, even though the truth is actually very heavy and very dark. But it is better to know, because then we can at least try to do something.
Right.
Try to do something to turn this around. And that's what we're doing, and that's what you're doing.
Right, right. And that's your activist spirit that you've had all your life. And I think we're all blessed to have someone like you, you know, in our lives. And I wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for being brave and being the leader and taking the, in the charge of this crusade, if you will, you know.
Oh, well, thanks. That's very nice of you. But here you are, too. You're showing your face. There you are, right? So you are doing this as well.
It was scary. It was scary. Yeah, I had thought about it for weeks. I'm like, oh, do I do it? Do I don't? Do I do it? Do I don't? And I said, you know, I don't want to die looking back and saying, you know, if I maybe had shown my face, maybe people would have taken me more seriously or whatever, because, as you said, it's truth, and I hold it very dear to my heart. You know, and nothing, you know, just like our Constitution, you know, our rights and the truth, it's all in the same par.
And the thing is, you know, yeah, and Erica, the thing is, we can talk about these laws that they have in Germany and how they have this system where you cannot even defend yourself, or where lawyers go to jail, and that in and of itself should tell people that there is something really, really big that they are hiding, that they're protecting, that they're so afraid of the truth and evidence that they make it illegal. And they have not just done this recently. They did this during the Nuremberg trials. So this is right after the end of World War II, and actually I might qualify that the war never really ended. It's just that the bombs and the you know, the open hostilities ended, but Germany is still an occupied country, and it is not a sovereign nation. And I don't think that the school children learn that over there. I mean, people are surprised when you talk about it unless they've really looked into these things. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also I'll tell you that the prisoners that I talked to, when I told them that I was a political prisoner, meaning that I was there simply for speaking and saying things that I was not supposed to say, the German prisoners, they inevitably were shocked at first. They said, no, that's not possible. We have complete freedom of speech here. It's in our foundational law. And they would tell me that completely, you know, straight-faced. And then I would explain to them what topic I had been talking about, you know, World War II history and that very, very taboo subject that you're not allowed to question. And then they would say, oh yeah, that's different. And so somehow they've also got that into their heads, that it's one thing to have complete freedom of speech. Right. But there's an exception when it comes to the Holocaust. Right. They've been so indoctrinated to believe that that's somehow okay. And I just say, well, how is it okay that one thing in our history is not okay to look at evidence?
Right. You know, and yeah, and it's it's just amazing because you could talk about every single thing, everything else but that. I mean,
That's
so
right.
like I was curious. I just wanted to adjust this a little bit. I was curious. The lawyers in Germany who have defended these clients that are facing political charges. What is their true opinion? Do they believe what we know to be true? Do they?
Oh, I think there are many, 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 many more people, including lawyers, who know the truth than will openly admit that.
Right.
So, and amongst these lawyers, I mean, here I'm not going to now start naming names and so and so.
Please don't. No, please don't. And we don't need to do that. We don't.
No, we
right.
don't need, but all I can say is, yeah, they know, and judges know too. I would guess that most judges know, but maybe some of them don't. Now, I'll tell you what the judge said at the end of Ernst Zundel's trial. So not our trial. I'll tell you what he said later. But Ernst Zundel's trial, so I think it was 2005 or 6, something like that. He said at the end of that trial, he said, it does not matter if the Holocaust happened or did not happen. What matters is that it's against the law to deny it in Germany or to question it, and you have broken the law. And then he gave him the maximum sentence of 5 years.
Wow.
With this law, paragraph 130. And he went to jail for 5 years there. And that was after he had spent 2 years in a Canadian prison in solitary confinement, awaiting extradition. And this was, post 9/11, post 9/11, post 2001, when all these new laws were in place, which could allow the government to hold people on
indefinitely, right?
Yeah.
Definitely.
I don't remember, and somebody else maybe of your listeners can tell us what exactly the laws were and that he was held on. But anyway, that was the case, and horrible conditions, solitary confinement, lights on 24/7. Now that is torture. I mean,
yes.
that is torture by any definition. And then he was extradited, and he just went right into that trial there and right into jail.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, but he came out. He was unbowed. This is what But I have to say, I mean, 2 years in solitary confinement. My goodness, that
right.
can break. I would say that can break a person. He was a very, very strong man.
God bless him. God bless him.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine. And knowing that these laws are so unjust.
Yes, and so then Sylvia Stolz, she was one of his attorneys. There were several attorneys, and she was one of them. And like I had said, she had been carried off and thrown in jail. And when she, after she came out, she carried on speaking. She couldn't do her profession anymore. She was disbarred and cannot.
Wow!
Be a
So she lost
anymore.
her law license over it.
Yes, I do believe that's how it worked. Like they gave her prohibition, like she was prohibited from practicing for 5 years, but in effect it became permanent because she was disbarred.
Wow.
So,
I mean, imagine this. They will destroy you from top to bottom or bottom to top. I mean, they will crush you.
They have tried, but she is not crushed. She's a very strong
Good for
woman.
her. They'll try to crush is what I meant. That's their goal, is to crush you, I should say.
Of course. I mean, they will try to destroy you in every which way, and many, many people have been, destroyed economically. They've lost their homes, or they've lost all kinds of things. And some people do actually get killed, and sometimes it's called an accident or a suicide, right, when in fact it's murder. But these things happen all the time, and we know that happened after 9/11 with many people who would have been witnesses to what really happened there and whatnot.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to tell you about this speech that she gave in 2012 in Switzerland, not even in Germany, get this, it was in Switzerland, and it was at a conference that was the Anti-Censorship Coalition conference. There were many people there. You can find this speech online, and I encourage people to find it. It wouldn't be hard to find.
I'm going to write this down. What is it called again?
Well, you just Google Sylvia Stolz, that's Stolz is her last name, 2012 speech, Switzerland.
Speech.
You'll
Okay.
find it.
All right.
Yes, she was at this anti-censorship coalition, anti-censur, coalition, so it's AZK or something, but that's not important. You'll find it just with her name and speech, and you'll find it. And the uncut version is an hour and a half or so, and they also have a shortened version there. Anyway, she was simply describing these laws, describing what happened. She wasn't denying the Holocaust there. She wasn't saying this or that happened, there were gas chambers or there were no gas chambers. She wasn't doing any of those things that you're not allowed to do in Germany. But what she was doing is describing the legal system and how you are not allowed to bring evidence into the court. And she described what happened to her at the Ernst Zundel trial. She also talked a little bit about the Nuremberg trials. This is 1946, those trials. Article 19, Article 21. I'll just summarize what those said. Basically, evidence does not need to be brought forth for this, and that if something is common knowledge, it does not need to be proven. So you could say, well, maybe it's common knowledge that, I don't know, that fish swim in water or something, and you don't need to prove that. I mean, something like that, but so they treated the Holocaust that way. So they basically did not allow any evidence that would be contrary to their story, and they simply declared that it is common knowledge, so we do not need to prove it. So if something is self-evident, we do not need evidence.
Wow, there's their loophole. I'm shocked.
Exactly. So, I mean, there you go. We don't even have to be saying these things happened or didn't happen. We can just talk about these laws and what they've been doing through all this time, through all this history, how they've been treating people who question these things. And oh my goodness, there are so many stories to tell about that. Ernst Zundel was not the only one, and I was not the only one, and Alfred, my brother, is not the only one to go to jail for these things. There's a fellow in Austria, Herr Fröhlich is his last name, I don't remember his first name, and he has been in jail, I think, for 13 years.
Wow.
Possibly 14 years. And what I heard recently is that when his multiple sentences finally ran out, they forced him to be now treated for psychiatric treatment, which is really the scariest thing of all, because then they can force drugs on you. And
right. What does that mean? You know what I mean? So what's in store for him now?
What's in store for him? They'll never let him out, I think. I don't know. It's really, really terrible. People need to know this.
This is so scary.
And I do believe that there are, quite a few political prisoners in your country as well, even though you have the First Amendment of the Constitution, and these are very, very precious rights that you have, but they are undermining these things so fast. Mm-hmm. And so, I have heard about quite a few prisoners in the United States where they will do it a little bit differently, because you can't directly charge somebody there for, let's say, Holocaust denial or whatever. They'll do it differently. They'll cause an aggression,
right,
provoke something. The person will defend themselves in their defense, but then they turn it around and they say they attack. This kind of thing. I mean, you hear about this all the time, and my goodness, we do need to. I mean, I guess I feel that my mission in life is to try to spread the truth and help people understand this, so that we need to rise up against this.
And this is, and get rid of the insanity. And I have some really bad news for people who don't know. I told you before we started the show, they passed the S.1 bill. So, they've set the precedent, and this goes for not just Israel, but any ally.
So you're talking about the BDS?
Right, the anti-BDS bill.
And so, really, this is, to me, it's mind-boggling that they can pass a bill that basically is telling us that if we want to boycott someone or something, that they're telling us we can't. But boycotting something is, I mean, it's our free will to purchase from somebody or not.
Right, as individuals. But if you're a business owner and you accept state and federal funds, but you are actively participating in the BDS movement, you face jail time and up to $1 million in fines.
This is just beyond the pale. But even as a business owner, you know, they call it free enterprise,
right?
That you can purchase or sell or whatever. I mean, this is just insane. Right. I mean, it is insane.
And here's the loophole. They said that if state law and federal law conflict, federal law takes precedence. So there's 26 states here that have anti-BDS laws, okay? And in a few states, the ACLU has taken it to court and overturned it. But now we see that if there's a law where, so the federal says it doesn't matter what the state says about the BDS law, it's a federal law, and everybody, all the states have to abide by it.
So, yeah, some states already did it, like about half of them.
26 did it, right.
And now the rest of them have to play ball as well.
Well, right, and there's a few states where the ACLU has overturned it.
What's the ACLU? Can you?
Oh, the American Civil Liberties Union. It's a liberal, there's for, constitutional rights of groups of people and whatnot. So I think in Kansas, maybe Arizona, there was a case, and there's only a very small handful of active cases going on with the ACLU, but it doesn't matter what the outcome of that is anymore, because they passed this BDS bill, and it's a federal bill, so it doesn't matter.
Oh my goodness. Yeah,
that's done.
It's like they are in panic mode. They are going all out right now. Things are moving very, very quickly, but it's happening parallel to this really explosive awakening.
Yes, it is. Yep, and it's not coincidence.
No, it's not coincidence. So there's the one and the other, and you sort of think, well, what comes first? The awakening, and they're panicking, and so they fight back, or they're doing all these things, and people going, whoa, what's going on? This isn't right, and there's just this. It's huge right now. There's a shift. There's an energy. There's something going on here that is incredibly. Well, I mean, you could say it's exciting times,
Definitely. It's scary. Scary, very exciting, and very scary. So when they grabbed you in the courtroom, what were you thinking? I mean, I know you said you were in shock.
Yeah. Okay.
And how long did it take to kind of sink in? I mean, when you heard the cell door close, and it really you were like, oh my God, I'm here.
Yeah. Well, I'll describe that a little bit. So
Sure.
The proceedings, the trial was underway, and about 40 minutes in, so it was really, really new, like just fresh. Like everybody was surprised by the judge suddenly declaring that there's a recess. There was no other reason for a recess. So, okay, suddenly there's a recess, like about 40 minutes in.
Okay.
So we just get up and go in just outside into the corridor.
Right.
Just to stand and talk in a group of people who were there to listen in on the trial, right? The public gallery people. And that was the point at which a woman who turns out she was the prosecutor, she comes sailing over to me, and she has 3 armed men with her, like police guard men, I would say, armed thugs, really. They're accompanying her, and she basically says, that's her, Monika Schaefer. Like, they had spotted me, and that's why they did the recess.
Wow.
It was obvious after the fact, right? But when it happened, everybody was surprised. So, I was basically saying, I'm a Canadian citizen, I'm a free person.
Right.
Basically going back and forth a little bit, and they're saying, well, you're not free here. You're not free anymore. And I said, I'm a Canadian citizen. and I'm free. And she said, well, you should have thought of that before you came to Germany. And they actually said that. One of them did.
Oh my gosh.
So at that point, they put the handcuff on my arm and cuffed me to one of these great big armed men. And that was it. They led me down the corridor and down the stairs. I mean, I didn't resist that.
Right.
How could I I couldn't resist. I mean, I didn't want my arm to break either.
Right,
So
right.
I'm cuffed. I'm in their hands now. So,
Wow.
I mean, I guess at that point I didn't feel, what did I feel? I don't know. I just decided from the very beginning that I was going to stay strong.
Right.
And I just decided, it was a decision. And I mean, I knew that, well, this is really serious now. This is really serious. Now I'm in their collection.
Here we go. The roller coaster's gone over the hill, and woo, you're going on for your ride now. Oh,
yeah.
My gosh.
Oh yeah. But so then that night I was in a police station in a different town. They drove me out of Munich to a different town, and I was in a cell that night, and it was a very strange experience. Mm-hmm. I sang a lot that night because I was trying to keep myself grounded and kind of focused, and so I sang a song. It's called Die Gedanken sind frei. That means
that was going to be my question. It was the German songs.
Yes, it was.
Awesome, good for you.
Yeah, and it translated, the title of that song is Thoughts Are Free. Thoughts Are Free. It's a wonderful song in German.
Awesome.
I couldn't remember all the words,
yeah.
So I started making up my own verses. I did make up my own verses, so I was singing these basically all night in between little bits of sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And the acoustics were really good in that cell.
I bet.
But anyway, so the next day I go before a judge, and the lawyer who represented Sylvia, he came to help me out there to represent me in front of the judge, just to see what they would do with me.
Right. Thank goodness he came.
Yeah, they decided, flight risk, because I'm a Canadian, so they kept me.
Right.
So then they brought me to the jail called Stadelheim. Actually, the women's prison isn't technically called Stadelheim, but it's next door to the old men's prison there called Stadelheim, which is where my brother is now. And so, that was the beginning of that 10-month period in jail. And the first few weeks I had no contact with the outside world. I was put in a cell with a few other women. It was quite raucous, people coming and going in the cell, and many, many experiences. And time went very, very slow in the beginning. Then it started to speed up over the weeks and months. It was actually kind of frightening how fast time went. But the interesting thing is that for me, I never knew until the hour of my release what would happen with me.
What do you mean by that?
How long I would be there. So you think a person in jail...
Right, so you're waiting for your sentencing.
First, I'm waiting for something to happen, like not even charges yet. I mean, they did...
So they just held you without charging you?
In the beginning, they gave me a document that says, well, you are under suspicion of such and such a law, right? So I knew that it's this paragraph 130. I knew what it was about, of course.
Right.
They spelled it all out in there, but formal charges were not laid until almost 4 months later, April 20th.
4 months.
And then it took till July 2nd for the trial to begin. So that's 6 months minus a day. 6 months minus a day. So here I am just in jail, and I don't know, okay, when am I getting out? What's going to happen? When is it going to get going? There's going to be a trial. When is that going to happen? And there were other women there. Let me tell you, there were other women there who were there for a lot longer than I was without trial yet. And technically, they're only supposed to hold you 6 months without trial. They have to, by law, but it's easy for them just to renew that by signing another paper saying, just extend that. But they happened to start our trial 6 months minus a day from when I was incarcerated. So that was the first time that I saw my brother since I was arrested.
Were you guys allowed to communicate via letters at all, or no?
Letters, yes.
Okay.
We could write letters. Of course, all letters went through the court.
Right.
The prosecutor at first was the one tasked with reading all letters coming in and out. Some of them took forever. Sometimes they took 3 months. Sometimes it was more like 1 month to get to me.
Wow. And so you have to be careful what you write in the letter too, because that could be additional charges, correct?
Yes, and they did sometimes give me a little notification that such a letter was kept and photocopied for evidence, and then
Oh my
they
gosh.
they sent it on, or sometimes they didn't send them on. I didn't get all the letters. I know that because when I was on my speaking tour recently, there were several people from whom I did not receive their letters, and that there was no notice of these letters being confiscated. You see, so they just kind of disappeared into somewhere, you know. And so, but I did get a lot of letters anyway, regardless. But now I know that there would have been even more had I received them all. So I did get a lot of letters, but letters took a long time. But yes, it was all read, first by the prosecutor, then it got too much for her. She was just complaining that's all she was doing was reading Monika Schaefer's mail. I thought, good, you guys did this. I didn't put me here. You
Make them work for it, Monika. Make them work for it.
It's your own fault.
That's right.
So anyway, then she passed that duty on to the judge, and so it was one of the judges that was then reading. But you know, they're looking for stuff to use against you or whatever.
It's like a witch hunt.
Oh, it is totally.
It's a witch hunt.
Totally. It is.
Oh
Although, let me tell you something about the court. Also, nothing gets recorded there. Now, this is also bizarre. I'm quite sure, like in Canada, there's always a tape running, like an audio is...
Right, we have that too.
Plus there's a court reporter typing away, and then they'll make some comparisons and make sure that there can be a transcript. If you want to get a transcript, you can get a transcript. Not so in Germany, not so.
So how do they archive court proceedings?
How do they indeed? Well, the only thing that is going to be on the record is something that was submitted in writing. But you know, you don't always, like, there's questions and answers, or the judge is asking questions and you could be answering, or the prosecutor or the lawyers. Any discussion that takes place in court, it's not recorded. There is no record. There is no record.
Wow.
It is unfathomable. And so the reason I brought this up just now is because you're talking about the witch trials. Well, I had somebody write me a letter saying, you know, he had been doing research on some of the witch trials, and one particular one he researched, and he realized that in that case there's a transcript of everything that was said in court. So, you know, these are terrible times, the witch trials and witch hunts. However, they're one step ahead of modern day, what they call Germany. Right. Because they actually had transcripts of everything that was said in court back then.
I am shocked. And I'm sure you have more to pour on, and I want to hear it. I cannot believe what I'm hearing. Wow.
Exactly. I would find it hard to believe too if somebody.
I'm stunned.
Yeah. And so, you know, I didn't know this in advance, and first day I'm kind of looking around the room, looking for the audio, looking for the court reporter who's typing away. Nobody. And I'm looking for some device, and I turn to my lawyer and I say, "Where? Like, is there no recording device? Where is it? What's, you know?" And he said, "No, it just doesn't happen here." So this was, I mean, this is just the way it is. It is stunning. It is stunning.
I'm really lost for words. I really can't articulate what I'm feeling right now. It's so bizarre.
Yeah.
It's so bizarre.
Yeah, it is. So I could tell you more stories about prison time, or about the trial, or what would you like me to tell you? Or are there people, you know, asking questions in the chat room or anything?
Well, we're gonna save that for last. Okay. I did have some questions because I did some research about you, and I wanted to ask you. There was an article written July 6, 2018 by CBC News, and it had something to do with the B'nai B'rith.
Oh, B'nai B'rith.
B'rith, I'm sorry, yeah, B'rith.
The Jewish organization.
Right, and they, there was somebody who tipped off the court system in Germany that you were going there, and I think the B'nai B'rith followed up on that or something. Did you know anything about that?
Well, no, this is interesting that what you're saying. Like, did they actually say this in the article that somebody tipped?
They said there was somebody who tipped off the German court, and then later in the article, the B'nai B'rith was later involved, but not initially. They're not the ones who...
Well, I'll tell you who reported Alfred and me to the authorities first.
Okay.
Because this is another thing that many people find very shocking, and it is shocking. It is dear, loving relatives of ours in Germany.
Wow.
So this was days after after the video was produced, the story, Mom, I was wrong about the Holocaust. Days after that, we went over for coffee and cake and showed this video. And in the middle of it, my cousin jumps up and is absolutely beside herself, screaming at us, no, 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 get out of our parents' house. You cannot do this. You're going to make Germany bad again. You're going to make Germany bad again. And it was just this, it was like a triggered response. She did not seem to be in her own...
right mind?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was very upsetting. I found it very upsetting.
Sure.
And it was clearly a result, though, when you just calmly think about this. They are a product of their re-education program in Germany. So generations of people now in Germany have been learning the victors version of the history.
Right.
So the victors write the history books. It's later in life that I figured out that's not just about choosing the font who writes the history books. Like when I was a kid, I learned that the victors write the history book, and I used to think, what difference does it make if the winners or the losers write the history books?
Right.
Don't they just write the facts? Don't they?
I thought so too.
Facts?
Yes, right. I thought so too. Yeah.
Well, so much later in life, I learned what that really means. That it's not just about choosing the font who writes the history books. Anyway, and there's many things we could say about the re-education program in Germany. I mean, there's Sefton Delmer, who was a British black propaganda minister, who at the end of World War II was telling a German professor, he was saying that the atrocity propaganda is how we won the war, and we are only just beginning. Now remember, this is 1945.
I just got a chill.
Yeah, we are.
Oh wow.
We are only just beginning. We're going to ramp it up until nobody has a good word to say about any German, and the Germans themselves will be basically groveling. I don't have a word for word. I don't have it in front of me, but they'll be groveling at the feet of the victors, and they will be so confused. They will not, that I can't remember exactly. Oh yeah, and that we must tend to this re-education constantly. It's like an English lawn. One moment of neglect and those weeds come up, and he calls it the weeds of historical truth. That's what he calls it. The historical truth will come up if we don't tend it all the time. So this is how the re-education works. You teach this, what you want to teach, this atrocity propaganda. They've been teaching it in the schools for generations now. So back to my cousins, they have been learning this, and it's this mantra, never again, which we also learned in our school programs, never again, never again, never again. And so they are good and loving people, these people. Right. And I am not angry at them personally. No, I am angry about the system that has created a situation where we and our relatives and people amongst us become agents of our destruction. And the protocols of the elders of Zion say the Goy will become agents of their own destruction. And isn't that the truth? It's come to fruition. Yes, and now, okay, so just as it turns out, they reported us to the authorities within that day or the next day. Their husbands did, actually. My cousin's husbands did. And I did not know that. I did not know that until February last year in jail, when my lawyer came to see me and showed me the files, and he thought I knew. He just assumed I knew.
Right. Okay.
And somehow a conversation was coming up about these, people who had reported us, but they don't want to be witnesses or blah, blah, blah. And I'm looking at the names, and I'm going, that's my relatives. And he said, oh, you didn't know?
Oh, gosh.
I said, no, I did not know. Nobody wrote me a letter, and the German authorities did not write me a letter to Canada saying, yes, dear Monika Schaefer,
right,
you're in danger if you come to Germany. And my relatives also, they did not tell me that they had reported us. But that's what kind of started they had a file on us. They had a file on us.
That's
and then
KGB shit. I mean, if we think about this, re-education camps and secret files on political dissidents, this is the kind of stuff we read in history books.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone. Like, there is no separation of years. You know what I mean? Like, this is the 1930s.
Well,
kind of in a sense, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it gets worse in a way because, okay, so when I was a young person and started learning about political prisoners, I thought that only took place in very, very, very far away evil dictatorships, like evil places, right?
Right.
And so then I became one, okay, in a Western so-called democratic, free and open democracy, whatever, you want to call it. That's just, we've learned, we have freedom of speech, freedom of the press, everything is great and wonderful. Now, here's the thing. People who grow up in communist countries or police states, they generally, let's say a high proportion of the population understand that they are being lied to by the government and by, the propaganda. The schools and governments might be lying to them. And a greater proportion of the population know and understand that. But in the free and democratic West, where we have so-called freedom of speech, freedom of the press, most people trust that we are being told the truth.
Yeah,
you see,
right.
So that is how it is that we've become so indoctrinated. And in Germany, that's the case. In Canada, that's the case. And I think to a lesser degree in the States. I think that now. I used to think that I didn't. I used to think differently. But I don't know, the kinds of correspondence I've received from Americans. It's wonderful. Like, I think there's a lot of very, very awakened people in the United States.
Well, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. Yeah. It gives me encouragement. So
yes,
I'm glad. Yes. I'm happy to hear that.
Yes.
Wow. Whew. Wow. And we're not done yet.
No. No.
Wow. Oh wow. Yeah, and I wanted to, and I came across this picture, and I put it in the background. So when you view the video, you're gonna see. I saved the picture. There were protesters daily at your trial, saying "Free Monika." Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yes, there was. Yep.
Wow.
Mhm. Yeah. So,
that is really, I'm getting chills now, actually, just now.
Yep. So, in fact, I will make sure I post the link to that article in the description. I didn't do it yet, but I will. And I'll send it to you. But, yeah, and I made, because in the background, I have a image slide of you, and then you and your brother, and then the protesters, and so... I like to kind of personalize things for our guests, and so well, I'm glad that I was able to tell you something good. Yeah, but you had a lot of support, and
yes.
Yeah, it was a June 30th protest, Free Monika Schaefer.
Okay, so that's just before the trial began.
Mm-hmm.
So that would have been, I think, I did hear about that one. And I think there were a lot of people there, and a lot of, and they were protesting for all the political prisoners. So that would include Ursula Haberbeck and Horst Mahler and Gerhard Ittner.
Now, do you keep in contact with them?
I'm keeping in contact with quite a few people. I haven't lately kept in contact with Ursula myself, but I should do that. I should write her a letter. I've just been very, very
Right.
swamped with all kinds of correspondences.
Yeah.
But yes, I for sure it's very important to write to political prisoners, and I want to encourage people to do that. And of course, I want to, put a shout out for my brother,
Absolutely.
Alfred Schaefer. And maybe the addresses could go in the description.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah,
I'll get it from you after the show, and then I'll put it in there. And yeah, everybody that's listening to this, and now and in the future, give some moral support and encouragement to these wonderful people, because they're the ones taking the brunt for us. They're blazing the trail. They're blazing the trail.
And the other part about it that's equally as important, I would say, as giving moral support to the prisoner themselves, and that is hugely important. I do not want to diminish that, not even by one iota. It was my lifeline, let me tell you, it was my lifeline. But equally important, it's that the people, the jail, the guards, and the court, and wherever that mail, it makes a path, right? It's taking a trail through the court system who are reading the mail and all this. It's really important that they see that these people are not forgotten.
That's true, yeah.
They see that the world is watching. They see that, hey, this is not okay for many, many, many people.
You are absolutely right, and it's planting seeds everywhere.
Yes, and they see, when I was in that women's prison there, there's just no comparison to anybody else that was there. How much mail I received.
That's awesome.
I walk out with a stack, and then then there's one letter for so and so, and one letter for so and so.
And then here you got a big bag full, right?
Yeah, it was like that. And then sort of the reputation was that if Frau Schaefer was getting her mail, it would take a long time because they had to sift through everything. And
right. Even
though it's already gone through the court, they had to sift through everything, open all up, because they wanted to check for inserts or stickers or glitter. It was very, very strict. So I'd say to people too, when you write, just cards that you write on, or letter paper that you write on, but no glitter, no glitzy stuff with stickers and glue, because they don't like the stickers and glue. They think maybe we're hiding something under the stickers and glue.
Right, yeah.
Or that they might be sniffing the glue or something or whatever.
I mean, yeah, what are you going to do? Put a file thing, that you're going to stick it in a card? But yeah, it's crazy. It is crazy. Yeah. There was one question. When you heard the verdict, well, you went home. I mean, you were set free that day, correct?
Correct. I was given a verdict of 10 months.
Yeah.
And this was coming up on 10 months. It was just a few days short. And when that happens, they don't let you go back into your cell. Mm-hmm. And they basically, you're spit out. And I felt like I was spit out just as suddenly and abruptly as I was swallowed up by the system. And that has its own challenges, I can tell you. That also has its psychological challenges. Uh-huh. And, suddenly I couldn't go say goodbye to my prison friends. And I can tell you, when you're in a situation like that, I mean, it just might not seem very apparent for people who haven't gone through that experience, but when you're in prison and you're there for 10 months, and which is short compared to some people, but it is still a significant amount of time, you develop very, very close bonds with people there that you're with, because you're all there, you're locked up, you're in the same boat. I mean, you're not seeing them all the time because you're locked in your cell for most of the day, 21 hours a day to be exact. But then when you are with them, like during courtyard hour or during that small amount of open cell doors time in the afternoon, it's very, you develop very intense relationships and friendships, so suddenly I can't go back, and so I didn't know that I was going to be released. So I can't, anyway, that had its own challenges. And then I had to flee Germany very, very quickly because it appeared that they were writing up new charges for me, and I got 3
Oh my God.
3 separate warnings from people that told me I have to now flee. And so this is also it's so bizarre. I mean, I would have loved to spend a few weeks at my sister-in-law's or with other dear friends' place.
And you couldn't even say goodbye to Alfred.
No, well, I just said goodbye to him in the courtroom. In the courtroom.
Yeah, but
I know. It was so impersonal. So it was so mixed too. That's the other part. It's just so like to be spit out and I'm set free. I'm set free into the free world. Okay, I'm out into the free world where a lot of people are walking around like brain dead anyway because of all this indoctrination. And I have to say goodbye to my brother in a situation where I don't know if
it's so
I'm
sterile
going to,
in the room
and when am I going to see him again? Like it's dangerous for me to go back to Germany, and even if I did go back to go visit him, they get 1 hour a month, so generally like 2 times 30 minutes
for visitation.
That's it. It's completely it's unreal. Anyway, so just to say, I had to flee.
So who told you and like how long after you walked out of that courthouse to when you got the news?
Okay, well, I walked out of the courthouse, it was Friday evening. It was dark out already. It was probably about, 7:30. We were outside. There's people milling about, and it's like, it feels quite incredible actually to be under the sky right now in the evening. And all these people and wanting to talk to me. And then my lawyer, he pulled me aside and says, please, don't have a heart attack, Monika, but you need to leave.
Wow.
ASAP, as soon as possible. Get on it right away. Okay, fine. I took it seriously, but I didn't think, well, I have to leave this night. But then the next day I got another signal. Friends from Canada called me and they had read or heard the CBC report that was issued 1 hour after the verdict, and they had no conversation with my lawyer. They were not in the courtroom to see what my lawyer saw. So the prosecutor scribbling away while I was doing my final speech, and this is where I supposedly did new crime in my final speech, even though I avoided the subject Holocaust studiously, but in the context of what I said, I guess I broke the law in my final summation speech, and anyway, but so they only heard the CBC report, but they obviously got enough out of that they felt it was dangerous for me, so they advised me not even to fly from a German airport. And so I took that.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because they whatever they said in that CBC report after the verdict, I guess there were strong indications there that I again did new crime, Anyway, so then the next morning, another bizarre phone call came. I don't want to get into the details of that right now, but it was another signal, sort of a person calling that it was too coincidental for this person to call sort of an old, long-lost friend, and, where is she, Like,
was she trying to find your location?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So,
oh my God, this is like a spy story.
Yeah, so by Sunday noon...
I can't believe it.
Yeah, I was gone, and I took the train, and then I got like 8 trains later because of the schedule, trying to get to Amsterdam, and I flew from Amsterdam, and just, go to the wicket counter with cash in your pocket and buy a ticket and a direct flight out, and it all went well. That was Monday morning, right? So and there's no way at that speed they would have put out a Europe-wide warrant. But if I had gone from a German airport, who knows, right? Who knows? I mean, my lawyer told me it doesn't matter if it's a Saturday or a Sunday afternoon or whatever. I mean, the police can come knocking at the door any time. Right. They can prepare their new warrant for arrest quick, just like that, right? So, I mean, you think that, there's no way that'll happen. But hey, look at what already happened. Sure. I mean, they grabbed me out of the courtroom on January 3rd, just there as a free citizen for a video 2.5 years earlier, or at that point, 1.5 years earlier. Anyway, I mean, the thing, and then in the court, you're not allowed to defend yourself, not allowed to bring evidence, or they throw lawyers in jail. So all these things are so bizarre that, yes, this was a serious warning to me. I had to leave. So it would be dangerous probably for me to go back to Germany. I don't know, maybe not, but I'm not going to try that out right now.
Right, I don't blame you. I don't blame you. This is amazing. This is amazing.
Yeah. So there's Alfred. He's in jail.
That poor man.
And he is facing more charges.
Now, okay, so why is there such a lag? I mean, so these charges are coming from his closing statement, basically, that he made in court, right?
Oh, well, for him, in his case, for a lot of other things that he said during the course of the trial, he did most of the talking when this trial was going on. Mm-hmm. And, like, they showed all his videos. And if people are not familiar with his videos, I'll just tell you, his YouTube channel is called Alfred S. Just the initial S.
Everybody please subscribe to Alfred S. on YouTube.
And he's got a lot of really good, informative videos there, like brainwashing series where he explains about psychological warfare. That's his specialty. He explains how they brainwash us, how they do this psychological warfare, how they weaponize the words against us. I mean, all these words like neo-Nazi and radical right and Holocaust denier, all these things are sort of set up gates in our brains that we can't think clearly anymore. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so I just got off on a tangent here. I was going to tell you something else about Alpha. Oh yeah, when he was speaking in response to, we watched these videos in court because they wanted to use these all against him, right? And so then there'd be question and answer, and he'd be speaking a lot. And the judge kept on interrupting him and saying, well, I just need to give you the warning now that could be a new Straftat, which means a new crime, a new offense, right? And Alfred just said, you're going to lock me up for 6 million years anyway, like, what's the difference? I'm just telling the truth.
I'm laughing because of his 6 million. Good for him. Good for him.
Every chance we get, we're going to bring up that 6 million
That's
number.
Right.
So anyway, he basically did not let that stop him from speaking what is truth, what is fact. Just this is the way it is. And much of these things we're actually quoting Jewish sources. I mean, when Jewish people tell us they want to exterminate the white race and we quote them, that's our crime? No.
Right.
We're just quoting them, right?
Right. Wow.
I mean, just look up Noel Ignatieff, what he says about the white race, or there's so many that tell us what they are doing, but they can tell us what they're doing, but if we quote it back to them, we just repeat these things, suddenly we're haters, or we're the criminal, right? Like,
or conspiracy theorists.
Exactly.
Wow, amazing. So
he's going to be facing a few charges based on things that he said throughout. But in my case, it was the last word. They call it the last word, and I spoke for 4 hours at the very end.
4 hours, wow.
Yeah.
Good for you. Awesome. It is so awesome.
Yeah, I felt at first, I thought, 10 months. These 10 months have been leading me all to this moment now. I'm telling myself, sort of giving myself a pep talk beforehand. Okay, do it good. 10 months have been preparing me for this. And then I thought, no. My whole life has been preparing me for this.
That's true. Yeah. Well, good for you. I am so, I look up to you, and you're my hero. So or heroine, whatever. But
I'm gonna start blushing. Better stop.
No, I'm serious. I mean, you inspire me, and because there's days I get real dark, and I'm like, it's just, and I get sad and depressed about this, and then, but then I hear, stories about people like you, and then I get the once in a lifetime opportunity to actually speak with you, and sharing your experience, and then it gives me the resolve to get back up and keep going forward. So I want to thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad
awesome.
to hear that because I would be very sad if my story made people go down. Like, no, we want people to.
That's right. Yeah.
Rise up.
That's right. You're just awesome. I love you. You're just really. That's and I think. Like I said, you guys are blazing the trail, so my hat is off to you and your brother and others like you, like Ernest and, the rest, so.
Yeah.
Were you wanting to say anything? I didn't mean. So wait, tell me. So you got home.
Mm-hmm.
What happened next?
Well, I got home. Like I stayed at friend's place south of here, and then I came back to the little town that I live in, Jasper, and that was pretty interesting. At first, it felt very strange. Mm-hmm. You know, seeing people, they kind of like had fear in their eyes, and I could tell that, oh, it was a big deal, you know, oh, she's home, you know, and then the word went around real fast, you know, like I kind of heard my neighbors when they didn't realize I was outside, and they're all talking with each other, oh yeah, she's back.
Yeah.
And then you know, at first, the whisper campaign went around really fast, and okay, so then I go around town doing my thing, like going to the store and this and that, and I see people, and many people actually gave me welcome home hugs.
Really? That's great.
Yes. Yeah, it came from surprising quarters. Like, it doesn't mean they were suddenly on my side or anything. They just were, you know, they would say things like, we're glad you're safe, welcome back. And then, but, you know, now it seems like there's sort of a hostility again. I think it's because people are seeing that I haven't quit talking. And it's not like I go around town with a blowhorn and try to talk to people about these issues. No, I just do my business in town. I just try to be friendly. I try to talk about other things with people that are my neighbors or the town people. I don't do what I'm doing with you to everybody I meet in town, right? Like, that's it's up to them. They know that I was in prison. They know what it was for, basically, and if they want to talk to me about it, I'm only too happy to talk about it with them, but only upon their
request,
initiation.
Right.
But still, word gets around that I'm still talking and online and doing these talk shows, and I'm unbowed, right? Like, I'm not sort of cowering in the corner and say, oh, I guess I learned my lesson. I guess I was wrong. They proved I'm wrong by throwing me in prison, so I must be a really bad person.
Right.
No. You see, it's not like that. I mean, they proved that they're protecting a big lie. They're hiding a big lie by imprisoning somebody just for peaceful expression and all this stuff, right? I mean, anyway, so now I just sense, I don't know, it's a kind of a hostility for many people. Not everybody. Many people, they're fearful. They go out of their way to avoid me, that kind of thing. But anyway, I'm not going to worry too much about that. There are I do have loyal friends, and there are many people too who know that I am right, that we are right with our understanding of history, but they're too afraid to say so.
Right.
I have kind of caught wind of a few people that know, but you know, it's kind of third hand through a red-pilled person that tells me, oh yeah, so and so, you know, he thinks you're right on and all this, but they're too afraid to say it.
It takes time. Right? It takes time for people to come out of the closet.
Well, they see what happened to me, and they don't want that to happen to them. You see what I mean? So they don't want to lose their job, or they have kids in school, they don't want them to get bullied, or there's a million excuses.
Yeah.
And you know, it is legitimate. There are severe consequences for just coming out and, you know, saying these things, but there are people who know. And at some point it's going to tip. And then, you know, then you're going to have everybody coming along, oh, I knew all along.
I know, when they were hiding in the bushes, right? I was there too. Oh, really?
I think that's how it will go. You know, these lies are going to buckle under their own weight. They're going to collapse under their own weight. The lies at some point are just so big, they just crumble. And this is starting to happen. You know, we talked earlier about this really big explosive awakening happening. And this is starting to happen. It's just explosive, actually. And it can't be stopped. It can't be stopped. Like, the truth is the truth, and lies are just fake things, so they don't have energy of their own. So, you know, when that happens, there will be many people who, they just go the way the wind blows, and some of those people
on the winning side, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what's going to happen, and I think that's when the people, they tend to say, yeah, I knew that all along. And
you're like, yeah, okay. You're like, yeah. All right. And then you look at your friend and you're like, oh, okay. And you guys are like, oh, whatever.
Yeah.
But, wow, what a story. Wow. Oh, there was one thing that I wanted to make sure I asked you about. Ritual defamation. Can you talk about that?
Oh boy, do you have about 5 hours? No, just kidding.
Take as long as you need or want.
It's a concept that I became an expert in without, knowing in advance that, I'm going to become an expert in ritual defamation. I'm going to study this thing. No, the reason I became an expert in this thing called ritual defamation is because this happened to me. So I guess it's a 1.5 year period of time between the video in June of 2016 and when I went to Germany just for a simple holiday for Christmas for 2017. So that's a 1.5 years of living in Jasper, and where the people basically tried to take me down. And it's a very systematic approach to ostracization, defaming, character assassination, destroy the livelihood, put pressure on friends to also isolate you and abandon you, never debate the issue, never ever ever debate the issue, no, and make you look like you're a nut and that you're just all alone, you're the only one, you're just a nutcase, they call you all kinds of names. I mean, it's just this whole process that happens. And so that's basically what happened. And I don't tell people that to try to gain any kind of pity or anything like that. Absolutely not. Because I like to explain how it is that they can keep lies going, or in other cases, like ritual defamation happens to other people as well who might be stepping out of line with certain allowed narratives. Like it could be in the medical field, or it could be with a number of other, any issue where if you step out of line and you've broken ranks with how we're supposed to think and how we're supposed to behave, or how then you got to get pushed back in line. And so this can happen to whistleblowers as well, or whatever. So I like to try to explain to people this is how they keep these things going. This is how they keep people in line, by doing all these things. And so I use it as a further educational tool, shall we say, to explain to people. So why is it that that it looks like everybody believes that the Holocaust happened? Why is it that it looks like that? Because they take people like me and try to just destroy us so that nobody else steps out of line. Like I received correspondence right after June 2016 from around the world, and I received correspondence from all around here too, from every little town and village and hamlet in this area, as well as others from around the world, from people who knew the truth and understood the truth, but they would say that they couldn't come out publicly and say it because of this and that and the other thing and whatnot. So there's a lot of people who know this truth, and I think there are people in every nook and cranny all around us that know and understand the truth, but it doesn't look like that to the general public. Right. They create a false reality around it. Yes, right, absolutely. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, It's exactly how you say it. It's a false reality of even just the awareness of the truth. So that's one of their tools, that's one of their weapons, how they do it. How did you survive that process? First of all, the confidence to know that I had simply spoken the truth. Now, you could say, well, how do you know it's the truth? I mean, I guess by this treatment of me just for speaking about something, it almost strengthened my confidence in that I was onto something, right? Because if I was speaking gibberish or lies or something just kooky, they would either ignore me or they would come up with evidence and argument against me. They could use my own words against me as in argumentation against me and say, well, this thing you said is wrong, this thing you said is wrong. No, but instead they say never debate, never debate.
Right.
You see, so this, I mean, if we're speaking lies, they would just correct those lies with evidence and argumentation. But they have nothing left, because if we're speaking truth, they have nothing else other than to either silence us forcibly by throwing us in jail or doing this ritual defamation that they did.
And scaring you off the trail.
Yes. Correct.
Right.
And I mean, I had done a lot of research. I didn't just come to these conclusions overnight, you see. So, and why do they say never debate? You see, they can't debate because they lose. They lose in these debates. So, okay, you asked, how did I survive this? So what, first of all, clear conscience and lots of support from people who did know the truth. They might not have been right around me in my own town. And I guess just that support from other people from far and wide, clear conscience, and just, hey, this is an existential crisis we're facing, and the knowledge that we are facing an existential crisis, and I don't know, that's how I did it.
Good for you. Now, weren't you in the Green Party when you started this? What happened with that?
Oh, the Green Party, my goodness. You know, I used to think that the Green Party meshed with all of my own beliefs and philosophies, and because I love nature, and I grew up as in a family that we always valued time in the outdoors so much together as a family, and hiking and swimming in lakes, and just being outside, and so I wanted to protect nature, and I also every time I saw something that was not fair or just, I would always feel like, oh, I have to do something about that or fix that. So I was always wanting to take care of things, and then I thought, Green Party, that's everything I stand for. But oh my goodness, let me tell you, they are the worst, actually.
Really?
They are among the worst of the political parties. Now, all the politicians are puppets.
Right.
There's the hidden government who is puppeteering them.
Correct.
But unfortunately, I have come to the conclusion that the Greens are about the worst, and particularly in Germany, which is where the Greens started.
Really? I didn't know that. Yeah,
and yes, and they're global Greens now, and so global Greens, they all kind of have the same vision and the philosophy. But my goodness, the German Greens, they're kind of going out ahead, and they are completely promoting the annihilation of the German people. So, for instance, I mean, there's one YouTube I saw of a Green politician. She was actually saying this in the Parliament, saying, yes, the German of the future is no longer blue-eyed or blonde, and the German of the future has a veil on, wears a veil, and this is good. Saying things like this, like wishing away your own people.
That's just sick. That's so sick.
It is. Actually.
It's basically a globalist party, then.
It is. And when one of their principles is to respect diversity. Now, what I always thought about that was that we're talking about nature and all the different species. Right. That's what I thought they meant by respect diversity. But I also thought, well, with people too, we respect diversity. But you see, this is code word for actually annihilating diversity, because they want to mix us all together and make, when you take a palette of paint and you mix them all together, you end up with mud. You don't end up with the different colors anymore.
That's right.
So if, this is what they are embracing, though. The Greens are the worst of the worst. And I had my personal first-hand experience with the leader of the Green Party of Canada, Elizabeth May, who I used to be friends with, and we liked each other a lot, and it has been a huge disappointment for me to see that she is completely compromised. She is completely kind of in, licking the feet, shall we say, of Israel, and that's...
Wow. Can you talk about what happened, or no? Would you rather just stay away from
Wow.
that. And if you want to, I mean, I totally understand and respect that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I talk about all these things. I'm not not worried about that. I am concerned, though, if we're missing that people want to come in.
Oh, I'm so into your story. I didn't realize how long have we been talking? An hour and a half?
Yeah, it could be.
Oh, okay.
See if there's people that want to jump in on the conversation.
Well, I mean, maybe we could also have you back on later at another date, and we can,
Yeah, because I think that it's maybe better to keep things from
you're
going
right.
too long.
You're right.
People might not want to watch it if you're archiving it. And all
you are
that.
absolutely correct. I was so absorbed in their story, I didn't realize we were an hour and a half into it.
That's very sweet. That's very nice.
Okay, everybody, if you guys have questions, please tag my name because it'll come up in the chat and I'll be able to see it much easier. We're opening the Q&A now. And it's on delay, so it'll be a minute or so.
Yeah. Do you want me to just tell a little bit about the Greens while you're waiting for people to write in?
Sure.
So anyway, in a nutshell, what happened is that the last time I ran that I ran in an election was 2011.
Okay.
And that was just before I started to actually figure out the story of 9/11, and that's 10 years after 9/11, the attacks in New York City and elsewhere. And I started to figure out what really happened there and who really did it and all those things. And then I started to try to inform Elizabeth May about it and send her all kinds of materials and talk with her about it. And she had formerly admitted that she did not believe the official story. She had done that publicly actually a few years earlier. She didn't exactly go too much further with that. She just said, yeah, she didn't believe the official story, so she knows. But anyway, I had sent her things and this and that, and I had also told her that in the next election I would talk about 9/11 truth, and she said, yeah, that's fine, as long as you still talk about Green Party policies. And I said, oh, of course, because I that's part of what I embrace anyway. So that's fine. But then a by-election came, and I was waiting for the go-ahead to be the candidate, and there didn't seem to be too much reason why I wouldn't be. They were always happy to have me as a candidate before. However, in the summer of, I think, 2014, that was when Israel went and did their horrible 50-day war on Gaza with, dumping white phosphorus on them and just horrible war. And the president of the Green Party of Canada had written a terribly hateful blog actually on the Green Party site that was so pro-Israel and full of distortions and whatnot that the membership was very, very up in arms and angry, and me too. I wrote a very strong letter to Elizabeth May and says, you have to get rid of this guy. He's going to destroy the Greens from within, and he's doing us a lot of damage. And at first she defended him. She defended his right, because anybody can, like freedom of speech, right? But he's the president of the Green Party of Canada.
And he's subverting it. He's subverting it, yeah.
So then, because the opposition to his article was so strong that she did end up firing him. But my letter that I had written to her did go public. Now this letter came up. The committee to approve a candidate, they weren't going to approve me because of this letter. Now she said to me on the phone, she phoned me finally, and she said, you can make the letter go away by apologizing to him. I said,
oh my gosh.
Apologizing? There's nothing in my letter that I would now apologize for. I stand by everything that I wrote, and that would be a compromise. That would be the beginning of the end for me in terms of truth-telling. So I wasn't allowed to run. And then sometime later, I resigned. There's more to the story, but it gets really long, so I'll just shorten it. I resigned, and I wrote a big long letter to her why I resigned from the party and terminate my own membership. That was about a year before the video.
Wow.
And she had written back to me, so I knew that she had personally seen my letter, because she wrote personally back to me. It's not like some staffer, no staffer did it. It was her.
Right.
And she has an elephant's memory. She has a very, very good memory. She's very, very smart woman, very intelligent, and a great memory. Anyway, so then my video came out, and she opportunistically did a press release, a big, smear on Monika Schaefer, and say, at the first opportunity, we're going to terminate her membership. Well, I had already terminated my own membership on principle.
Right.
Because of 9/11 stuff. Okay, so because there's another part to that story. I don't know if you already have people in the chat room.
We do.
Okay, let's go to that. But anyway, she basically, that was the end. Like, I know who her master is.
Yeah, right.
I had personal experience with it. But I'll just say one more thing before we go to the chat room there. She always said, I will always speak truth to power, no matter how uncomfortable for whoever, the media, the powers that be, no matter how uncomfortable it is, or even if the membership doesn't like it, I will always speak truth to power. And I believed her. But it's not true.
Gosh.
Now we know.
Wow. What a fantastic story. I'm just, wow. Okay. The audience is wanting to know. Jesus warned us about them, wants to know. Monika, do you have problems with anti-Semitism against you in Canada?
Do I have problems with anti-Semitism against me?
Yes, like maybe that you're being accused of being anti-Semitic. Do they give you problems?
Oh yeah, I'm accused of that all the time.
Okay.
And my answer, or how I would deal with that is that we have to just understand that this word is a tool for the Jews to use against us. That any criticism of Israel, any criticism of what they're doing to us, or if we point out that Israel did 9/11 or Israel plus their tentacles in the United States, if we point these things out, then they call us anti-Semitic. But if we just point out facts, or even if we point out what they themselves tell us, like if a Jew tells us that Jews control Hollywood or own Hollywood, or they have control of the media. If they tell us that, it's okay. They're bragging about it. In fact, they're bragging about it. But if we point it out, then we are suddenly anti-Semitic. See, it's just a tool to shut us up.
Right, and confuse you and box you in a corner so you don't want to say anything.
It's a tool to stop us from criticizing them. Actually, Jewish power is the ability to stop us from recognizing or speaking about Jewish power. That's I think that's from Gilad Atzmon. He says that. He's a former Jew. Wonderful
answer. Thank you. And wonderful question. Thank you for asking. Glory to the King. Jesus wants to know, are you safe in Canada for now? I mean, like, do you feel safe going outside, or do you receive threats or whatnot?
I'm not afraid. I choose, I guess, not to live in fear, and I'm living my life very freely, and I walk about very, very freely. I mean, there have been things that have happened where I guess if I was, maybe I could, I suppose you could see that might be a fearful situation, but somehow I'm choosing just not to live in fear.
So overall, you are safe, though.
I feel safe.
Okay. All right.
But,
good.
I mean, somebody listening to this might say, "Oh, she's crazy," but whatever. I feel safe. I mean, something might happen, but I'm not going to live my life in fear, because that will actually be debilitating.
Right.
And I don't want to live that way. So, I guess I'm not afraid of what could happen, right? That's maybe a better way to put it.
Okay.
I'll carry on. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Excellent. Tanel88 Truth Seeker wants to know, have you heard update from Ursula Haberbeck?
Well, she is in prison.
Still?
In Bielefeld. She is still there, and it's, you could say that it's probably a life sentence because she is 90. You see, so it's probably a life sentence. And actually, she is in prison. She went into prison in May. She was, over the years, charged with many things, but it was always in appeal, so she actually went to prison in May. They picked her up at her home and put her in prison at that time.
And how long does she have, I mean, like, right now?
Well, I don't actually know at this time what her total sentences are, but it's years. It's in the years, and she is 90, so I do think that...
Yeah, right, you're right, yeah.
Could. And I have heard from some people that after she went to prison, she aged quite a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You know, she aged quite a lot. People were protesting outside the prison that she should at least get a more comfortable bed and just various things that her conditions should improve. For example, that she shouldn't have to shower with all the other folks there, because, you know, a person that age, that is just not something that they might be comfortable with, and then these maybe
and she's not a criminal, for Christ's sake.
Well, no, and regardless of, you know, and actually I'll tell you something, in the former East Germany, before 1989, when it was still the communist country, they actually had conditions whereby prisoners over 80 were released. They were released at 80 years of age, or if they were over 80 and they were sentenced, they were not put in prison. They were allowed to carry out their sentence at home, like a house arrest or something. I don't know exactly what the conditions were. And in the West, you know, the so-called free and democratic West, they incarcerate even older people, like 95-year-olds, who simply worked at one of these concentration camps. Like,
I don't agree with that at all. That makes me so angry that I'm like, they didn't do anything.
They're just carrying out their orders. They might have been pushing paper around all day or something.
I know. It's disgusting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, terrible, terrible. Wilfred III. My question is, what does Monika think about the new party in Canada called the People's Party?
Well, I mean, first of all, I won't be able to answer this in depth because I don't really know that much about them. I've seen some good things that they're talking about, but I've also seen them putting into their policy something about, oh, well, they're not going to accept anything anti-Semitic, and right away I go, oh, well, this is just another controlled opposition party. It's just another controlled opposition party. Like, that's what I think. It's all these political parties, they're basically all being, you know, infiltrated. Even if they were started by well-meaning people wanting to do the right thing, they all get infiltrated. And I mean, you know, in the protocols of the Elders of Zion, they do say that we will be in every stripe, we'll be in every political party, every group, every organization. They will just be everywhere so that they control the narrative.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I don't want to say this to make people be hopeless. No, because we are still capable of thinking, and we are human beings, and we have spirit, and we can rise up against this.
Right.
I mean, we are many, they are few. Why are they so afraid of us knowing the truth? That alone gives me hope, actually.
Right.
Why are they so afraid of us speaking truth? It's because their false narrative that they make, this matrix that they make for people to think, you know, this is reality when it's not, like it's a false reality, then obviously that's very crucial to their program, that we all are in this false reality. So if we wake up to this is dangerous for them. That's why they imprison people like me or my brother. So that's what gives me hope. But about the party, I don't really want to say any more than what I just said.
Okay. All right. No, that's fine. All right. Let's see. I know that people are asking to please not forget to get Alfred's address. Do you want to maybe give it to me now, and they, you know, I'll write it down, they'll write it down, and then I'll make sure I put it in the description.
It's very simple. So Alfred Schaefer, Stadelheim, STR, that would be like street or Straße. Stadelheim, that's STADEL.
STADEL.
HEIM.
HEIM.
Yeah. STR, like street, you know, but Straße.
STR, okay.
12.
12.
And then the next line, 81549.
81549.
Munich.
Munich. Okay.
And then it's Germany.
Germany.
And it's always good maybe to throw in a line under his name saying political prisoner or something like that.
Yeah, all right. Now, do you know offhand, real quick, where if people want to contact the other political prisoners, how do we find out? How do we like just Google or is there like a site, website?
You could find it. I think you could find it, or after we're done, I could find it and send it to you. But
sounds good.
So Ursula Haberbeck, if you Googled it, I'm sure you could come up with it. Bielefeld is the city. Bielefeld, I'm pretty sure, and then Horst Mahler. I can't remember which city he's in.
Okay. All right, but we could, yeah. All right, next question. Tanel 88 Through Seeker, another question about Ernest Zundel library. The CODOH should try and obtain the full library, and has Monika heard anything about the Zundel library?
Yeah, somebody in the United States is trying to acquire that for the purpose of making it available. I mean, that's what was intended. Right now, that library is, I can't really say too much about it, but there are people working on it, as far as I know. But that's a very, very legitimate concern. And I'm glad the person brought it up. It's concerning because there was a huge, huge library. And I don't know at this point what has happened with that. So, but it's a huge concern.
So they may or may not build it, or is that what?
Well, you see, I mean, Ingrid, his wife, who is in the United States, she had this huge library there, and she died a few months after Ernst.
Okay.
So they both they died in 2017.
I see. Okay.
Both of them. So anyway, there is great concern about that library.
Do you know who has it right now? Does anybody know where it's at? Like physically or? Physically,
it was. Yeah, I don't know.
The state probably got a hold of it. Yeah.
No, it was in the hands of her son, and I'm not sure where it is now.
Okay.
I don't really feel I can say much more about it. But people are very concerned about it, and rightly so. And I do hope that library is secured and protected from the elements as well, and all these kinds of things. Yes.
That'd be a huge loss.
It's a huge library, and it would be a huge loss. There's some very, very old and valuable things there, I think, like really valuable books.
Right. Wilford the Third wants to know, my second question to Monika, have you thought about running for public office in Canada to wake up more people? You have a great presence about you.
Aw, thanks. I don't think I'll run for politics. I'd be setting myself up as I'd be the, I don't know, human dartboard or something.
You'd have to hire a team of Secret Service to protect you all 24/7, just, right? Yeah. They don't want the politics and any more attention given to truth seekers, that's for sure.
Well, the mainstream media, I don't know, they probably wouldn't let me get past square one to get myself, registered. Yeah, no.
But, you were politically active in the Green Party, so, she's a born activist. You're a lifetime activist. So, all right, next question. Let's see. Well, it jumped up on me. Please extend my, Blue Velvet wants to say, please extend my deepest respect, admiration to this phenomenally brave woman.
Aww.
Yes, she is. I agree. Glory to the King Jesus says, tell her she's in my prayers, and we are with her and Alfred. Hannah Banana says, thank you, and God bless you, Monika Schaefer. Thank you at Harsh Reality for hosting. Thank you, Hannah Banana.
Thank you.
And Blue Velvet says, this is one of the greatest interviews I have ever seen. This is award-winning stuff here. God bless you, Harsh Reality and Monika. So thank you, Blue Velvet. I really appreciate your feedback. The kind words. Thank you. I think that's it for now. Oh, hey, Sister Shiska. Do you have a quick question for Monika? Because we're going on 2 hours almost. She had me totally absorbed. She had to stop the interview. I was just like, tell me more. Oh, real quick, because I think, my back's starting to hurt. I can only sit for so long. Yeah. But we definitely would love to have Monika back whenever you can. So we'll keep in touch, and thank you so much for sharing your story, and we're all going to keep you and Alfred in our prayers, and keep in touch with me. Let me know what's going on, and I look forward to having you on again.
Thank you so much, Erica, and thank you to the listeners as well. Thank you very much.